Hey guys, this is the second part of my refutation of the ontological argument. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, look at the video that this is a response to, and that will be the first part, and then you can watch this and continue on. In the last video, I talked about Descartes' version of the ontological argument and why it fails, because existence can't be viewed as a property. In this video, I'm going to talk about how Descartes' argument can be improved by appealing to this concept of necessary existence. Then I'll show you how that argument fails, and then I'll go on to the very best version of the ontological argument and show you how that fails as well. Right, so the first thing I need to do is tell you what necessary existence is and why this is different from the existence we were talking about in the last video. If we say that something necessarily exists, we mean that its non-existence is a logical impossibility. We are in the world, and everything in the world, by definition, exists. The important thing is, not everything in the world exists necessarily. For instance, let's take any object. Let's take me, for example. I do not exist necessarily. My non-existence isn't a logical impossibility, simply because it is conceivable that my parents might have never met, and as a result they would have never produced me. This mug exists contingently, because it may have never been made. Most things we think about exist contingently. They do not exist necessarily. Necessary existence can be viewed as a property, simply because it's not just something trivial we're saying about everything in the world. This leads us to the new formulation of Descartes' ontological argument. I have an idea of a perfect being. Necessary existence is a perfection. A perfect being, by definition, has all perfections. Therefore, a perfect being has the property of necessarily existing. Therefore, a perfect being necessarily exists. As you can see, there doesn't seem to be too much difference between this and the previous argument. This reason is simply because I can give exactly the same counterexample to this argument as I did to the last one in the last video. I can make necessary existence a property of an arbitrary object, and by doing that I can call it into existence. For instance, I'm going to think of something called an egg mount. An egg mount has the following properties. It is a mountain, it is golden, and it exists necessarily. So, I have a concept of an egg mount. Necessary existence is a neg-mountic property. A neg mount, by definition, has all neg-mountic properties, therefore a neg mount necessarily exists, and therefore it exists in the actual world. So I've shown you that it fails, and the thing is, it seems that this idea of necessary existence hasn't seemed to have improved the argument at all. There's a very simple reason for this, and it's because Descartes' argument is actually formed in such a way that it creates an ambiguity, and it is that ambiguity he is exploiting. However, the argument from necessary existence, if phrased in the correct way, can actually lead to a very good version of the ontological argument, which cannot be attacked in the way I've been attacking the previous two. This is the minimal modal ontological argument. Please look at the video that is a response to this one to see what that argument is and how it's dealt with.